Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Chris Varcoe with the Calgary Herald, joined by columnist Don Braid. Don, a fascinating week in the world of Alberta politics with talks about equalization payments, plunging poll numbers, and the NDP government's decision to try and exclude journalists with the Rebel online publication by Ezra Levant from their briefings. That probably got the most buzz last week in the politics world. What did you make out of the NDP government's attempt to try and exclude the Rebel reporters from their press briefings?
Oh, the NDP didn't have any idea what was going to happen. The NDP actually thought that so-called mainstream journalists like us would like it, because they know that we don't think that much of the Rebel. We think the Rebel is an advocacy group with, a weak claim to journalism, although they have an organization, they employ people and everything. But I think they were shocked when what they got was almost universal reaction among columnists across the country and the other papers that the NDP had no right to do that. First of all, they had no right to define who a journalist is. The government, that makes us very nervous in this business. Like if Ezra Levant's not a journalist today, well, I'm not a journalist tomorrow, perhaps, even though we agree on absolutely nothing.
Right.
So, as one fellow said on Twitter, a lot of journalists were taking a shower after having defended Ezra, defending Ezra for the first time ever. And the NDP walked right into it. I think they should have done a little more checking around to see what the reaction might be, because this actually involved a constitutional principle. Do you
think this really hurts the government, though? I mean, I know that the accusation was being made that they were muzzling the media, or that they're trying to define who the media is and then muzzling the media they don't like, maybe more importantly. But does it hurt them?
No, I think over time, probably not. We should also say, of course, that they apologized and backed away from it very quickly and said the Rebel will be allowed. And the one thing they're doing that I don't agree with now is having somebody review this. I mean, come on.
Right, they're hiring a former journalist, Heather Boyd, to determine how the rules should be around this.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. The other thing that might happen now is that because they claim to be trying to define this line, which didn't need defining really, and now anybody can come into a news conference. That's what they say. This is the other side of it. They're saying it to people like us. Well, this is what you're going to get. They're going to come in, and so is every whack bar in the country, right? I don't think that'll happen.
Let's turn to the equalization issue. So on Thursday, Brian Jean, the Wild Rose leader, held a news conference in Calgary, announced he was forming a 4-member panel of economists and experts to look at the issues of equalization. Now, this has been a tricky issue for governments over the years. You constantly heard the claim that Alberta is sending more money through equalization to the rest of the country, and obviously, as a have province, not a have-not province, we are getting nothing back. So he puts together this panel. Do you think this is a wise move?
Yeah, I do. I think somebody's got to get this ball rolling, because Alberta gets zero, Ontario gets $2 billion, Quebec gets almost $10 billion a year, and we're now in a situation where we may well deserve equalization. But it's all based on these very complicated averages of tax earning power and all these other things that take years to sort of adjust themselves to a new reality. The other provinces like Ontario are very worried that with Ontario sinking, they'll suddenly be above the national average and be a have province and have to pay. It's very, very complicated stuff. But I think on principle, it's a good idea for the province to have a policy. That's what Wild Rose is suggesting. And to say right away, this is what we're going to do. We're going in there. And Joe Ceci, the finance minister, just said, well, that's 3 years away. I'm not going to worry about it. But if everybody else gets the roar in the water first, we could get stuck.
All right, let's turn to our winners and losers of the week. Our winner of the week, and we've jointly agreed, is Stephanie McLean. Stephanie McLean is the Service Alberta Minister, just got promoted to the job, but probably more importantly, she had the distinction of being the first cabinet minister in this province's history to give birth while in office.
It's quite wonderful, and Stephanie McLean, it has to be said, is an absolutely delightful person. I think there are only 2 sitting cabinet ministers in Canadian history who have given birth well, they were on the job. We're not on the job when they gave birth, but you know what I mean.
They were in office.
They were in office. One was Christy Clark in British Columbia in, I think, 2002, and the other was Pauline Marois, the Quebec politician. I think that was 1995.
Both became premiers, so maybe there's a path to be trailed there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Our loser of the week is Rachel Notley, and part of the reason for that is we saw some poll numbers come out this week from Angus Reid Institute showing that her personal popularity has plunged from 53% last June to 45% in December, down to 33%. So that is 1/3 of Albertans now approve of the job that the Premier of Alberta is doing, and she's been on the job less than a year. How much do you think this is tied to the economy, Don?
I think a lot of it is, but she has to ask, why is Brad Wall with a similar economy 62% and she's 33%? And one reason is that people perceive he's really sticking up for Saskatchewan, and they're not sure if she is.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Thanks a lot.